Welcome to the Mastering the Game of Life podcast. In this podcast, there'll be insights around 3 key areas to mastering the game of life: purpose, prosperity, philanthropy. Your host, Paul Lowe, the third sector mentor, is the founder of Hearts Global CIC, which along with many other of his charitable commitments has been responsible for positively impacting thousands of people's lives, particularly young people from disadvantaged communities. Author of Mastering the Game of Life, From Pain to Purpose, and Speaking from Our Hearts books. Introducing your host, Paul Lowe.
Welcome, listeners. Here we are on the Mastering the Game of Life podcast, and I am very privileged to be in the home of a former professional football goalkeeper whose claim to fame, amongst many, is the fact that he won 3 promotions along with a very, very famous manager under the name of Neil Warnock. So without further ado, my great pleasure to introduce to you Steve Cherry. Steve, a warm welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Right, so a good starting point, Steve. I know you've got a new book that's coming out soon called Cherry Picking, Life Between the Sticks. I want to park that for a moment, if I can, and just dive in and tell us about growing up as a kid first and foremost.
Well, I was a lad growing up in a local village in Calverton, and I was football mad. I had a special relationship with the elder lad who was a former goalkeeper, as in local goalkeeper, who helped me with cheer as a goalkeeper, special training. And then it helped me get into the local team, the school team. But it took a time to get there. You know, I had 2 goalkeepers above me, so it was a case of playing outfield. But in my spare time, I did a lot with Les Yates, and I had a ball in my hands 24/7.
Right, okay. So what position did you play outfield then?
Gosh, I played inside left, outside right. I scored an equalising goal with my left foot, which is not very good. I don't know why that happened. It was much of a fluke. Local derby. It was just being patient. I'd play anyway, just to play football.
Right, okay. The benefit of the listeners, that area that Steve's referred to called Calverton is an old mining area, the old Calverton pit there. The pit would have been shut down, Steve, would it, when you was a lad, or was it still...
No, my dad worked there for 40 years.
Right.
But the unfortunate thing, my dad never got to watch me play. So when we played our games, it was always his mates coming to watch me or bypassing the pitch, and they'd reply all the... how good I was and this, that and the other. So, and I wasn't keen on my parents watching me anyway because it made me quite nervous. So,
yeah.
But it's a great village. And it's a shame it shut down. And a lot of my former school colleagues, they went down the mine. And at a time when I thought, well, if I didn't make the grade, I probably would have followed the same footsteps.
Yeah.
So it's, you know.
Yeah. Well, Nottinghamshire at the time when we was growing up as kids, because we are the same age, the pits, whether it was Hucknall, Limby or surrounding areas, was quite rife, wasn't it? It was you left school and you went down pit and that was it.
Yeah, I think I went down twice as from school, just to have a look at it and was interested. But my heart was all set on being a pro footballer goalkeeper.
So did you have that awareness then, Steve, from a very, very early age? Yes, your heart was set on it, but do you actually believe that you would do it? Did you have that focus?
Yeah, from the age of probably 4 or 5, when I was diving around my mum's lounge, and it was on a Sunday morning, and I cut my knee open. I think the family had a few beers the night before and splintered a glass, and it went to my knee.
Right.
And that was through diving around in the lounge.
Yeah.
Knocking myself out at 2 years of age with a ball,
Right.
So yeah, I was football crazy, and I didn't watch many football matches on live. It was always on TV. Because when I got playing, I played that much football that I didn't get a chance to play or watch matches at the weekend.
I think it'd be fair to say then, Steve, from a very early age, not that you'd maybe have been over the word purpose, but it was your purpose in life.
It was without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Absolutely.
I believe that.
Yeah. Wow, okay. Who was your football hero growing up?
Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton.
Wow, Banks and Shilton, yeah.
If you look at my career in terms of goalkeeping gloves and more so boots, I always wore Puma football boots.
Right.
Because Banks and Shilton wore them.
Wow.
And later in life, I got the pleasure to... I was sponsored with Puma boots and gloves. So a bit of perseverance there by myself, and I was honoured by wearing their equipment.
Probably a little bit of an unfair question, stroke comparison, Steve, but out of those two massive giants in the world of football, who would be the number one?
Without doubt, Banks.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting him again for the third time about 3 months ago. I was invited back to Chesterfield, and they invited 5 goalkeepers back, and top man was Sir Gordon Banks.
Wow.
So me and the wife had dinner with Sir Gordon on our table, and what a great night at Chesterfield.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Music. Was music ever a part of your life?
Well, never a dancer.
No.
Because one of my mates were at the youth club, I'd be outside kicking a ball about. But probably in my early years at Derby, I was a massive Cliff Richard fan.
All right, okay.
Took a lot of stick for it, but
Yeah.
down the line, I got to meet one of his producers or songwriters, Chris Eaton, who wrote Saviour's Day, and became golf buddies for about 6-7 years. So every time his phone went to his house, I'd say, "Is that Sir Cliff? Can I talk to him?" But it never happened, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I also used to like Cliff was my main one. Sweet, remember Sweet?
Yeah, I do.
In the
Yeah.
70s?
Blockbuster.
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah, Spandau Ballet.
Spandau. They were more the 80s, weren't they?
Cool and the Gang.
Yeah.
I had a few choices, but I wasn't a massive pop fan, if you like. I wasn't. It was just football. It dominated my life.
Right, yeah. I mean, the reason I asked that, Steve, I know as a generalisation, I know how powerful music is in people's lives. And interesting what you say about the Cliff Richard thing. I've recently done a nostalgic podcast episode with somebody, yet again, sort of our age, and he was sharing his early sort of pop idols. And in the ensuing conversation, I actually conceded that I used to like Donny Osmond.
I love the Osmond and the Jackson part. Jacksons, they were massive part of my youth. Donny and Marie and the Osmond family loved all the shows. That's what a lot of mine.
I suppose the thing was though the difficulty, inverted commas, for me on that one, Steve. Growing up as a kid on Bestwood Estate. It's not the kind of thing you put your hands up to.
No, mate, no. At times at Calton Village it weren't, but deep down you thought, yeah, I know where you're going with that one, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a great way you've put that, Steve, deep down, because when we look at your football career, which has been, in anybody's perception, successful, but people don't get to see the real person behind other than what goes off on the pitch, that real... What's the man behind behind the goalkeeper or the striker or behind the player? What's really going off? What happens in his life? The tears, the tantrums, the happiness, the sadness. And that's what I like to do with these podcasts, is like dig behind the scenes and say, okay, Steve, tell us about Steve the man rather than Steve the footballer. And we will come back to Steve the footballer.
Well, I think, I've had disappointments, I've had sadness and tears, and I think the biggest disappointment is the loss of your mum and dad.
Yeah.
That really took me back, set me back. How could I live with mum and dad? And, my dad was never, ever ill. All of a sudden, he passed away at the age of 83. Well, it was yesterday, actually, 83. 18 years ago. And then my mum had cancer for 28 years, battled it with all sorts of problems. And she survived till she was 91. It put a bit of stress on me and my life, if you like, because when my dad passed away, it was taking care of my mum and continually taking her out every Saturday night with my ex-wife and my wife Fiona. We did it. She took her out, just to get by the days, the weeks. But that's a massive blow for me. And then about 6-7 years ago, my brother passed away through being alcoholic. There's a massive Steve Cherry fan and a Notts County fan.
Right.
And we had some great times with him, and he's sadly missed,
Yeah.
But like you say, I think when you go through a divorce, made me quite ill.
Yeah.
You know, to the point where it caused a lot of stress, and probably the main cause of why I had to have heart surgery.
Yeah.
But having Fiona got me through it all, and definitely without doubt made me a better and stronger person.
Yeah.
And my outlook is different on life. But I still like to help people. I've been to people's bedsides to try and help get through comas and all that. You know, I like to support charities. I've had football matches and raise money, and Burns Unit in Nottingham. So yeah, that's Steve Cherry, who I want to be remembered by. Not just a footballer, but I think that people that know me know that I'll do anything for anybody.
And I'm going to, and I'd second that. And we haven't spoke about this, Steve, but I'm going to remind you of something when we played for Carlton Town.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going back a good few years now.
Yeah.
Mick had arranged it. Mick Garton, the chairman.
Yeah.
You was obviously in goal. The guy that does Radio Nottingham, his lad James, was playing.
Yeah.
And I was playing fullback.
Yeah.
And I passed this ball across the 18-yard box, and you went bananas.
Yeah, I would do, yeah.
Yeah. To which I gave you a reply.
That's okay.
And there was a little bit of...
the thing is, when you replied to me, you know that you understand that I was right in the first place. That's why you bit back at me.
Yeah. You sound like Brian Clough now.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is.
We'll discuss it for 2 minutes.
What you should have done was put your hand up, apologise. Because you bit back, you knew I was right. So we'll end that there.
Right, yeah. Okay, as you say, moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good few years ago. But, so just going back, Steve, to the challenging times in our lives that we all have. So what do you think gave you the strength to overcome that, to keep going?
I think the love of my mum and dad.
Yeah.
You know, I had many a time when I was sat there thinking, how am I going to cope? But you do. It makes you a stronger person, but you never forget them. You know, I wish my two kids were like what I'm like, and you know, my wife Fiona's lost her parents at an early age, and it's made her she had to bring herself up. You know, and she's an inspiration to anybody, all walks of life.
Yeah.
So how she's turned out, clothe her, feed herself. I've been privileged that I've had everything done for me, and my parents sacrificed a lot to get me to where. Get me started, if you like, and I hope along the way in my football career that I repaid them by not just my performances and what I won and achieved, but by what I paid back outside of football. I don't want to go into that because it's not about patting on the back, but I hope they understand. And I know we did. We had a great connection, my mum, dad, and me.
Yeah. And on the note of charity, Steve, you've mentioned to me off air that there's one very close to your heart at the moment. Do you want to give us a little insight into that?
Yes, MDS, and you got it written down. It's
myelodysplastic syndrome.
Yeah, it's a form of blood cancer. It's connected with leukemia. And leukemia is what my mother-in-law, if I call her my mother-in-law, my Fiona's wife, she died at a very early age. So Fiona's been looked after on that department, and also she suffers with lymphedema.
Right.
And she was the first person to have liposuction done in her leg, in the right leg, and it's been controlled by the doctors, nurses, surgeons. So yeah, it's two charities that are close to our hearts, and we want to support as much as we can.
What I'll make sure happens, Steve, in the show notes, because we get a written version of this conversation with the key points pulled out. We'll make sure the website and the contact details for those two charities are highlighted, so that listeners can then, if they don't pick up on it on the audio, they can actually read the show notes, and it's there as well.
Yeah.
Biggest influences on your career and your life? I think you've already answered that, Steve. Is your parents?
Without doubt,
yeah.
I mean, they took me and my sister Lynn. They took me everywhere to training. But obviously, until I passed my driving test, I was restricted to either living in Diggs Away in Derby or how would I get back from Derby. So I got a lot of transportation from my parents and my sister. I had a lot of support from the other members of my family, but we're not in touch anymore. So I am with my sister Lynn.
Okay. What do you value, Steve, more than anything else in life? You've already said to me previously around, when you've had that kind of life-challenging experience or a life-challenging experience, you look at things differently. Knowing what you know now, or more importantly, how you feel now about life, what is the number one, if there is one thing, there may not be, but the one thing that you value and you regard it as being so precious?
I think people that love you, I give the love back. I was warned that when I first started playing football, that people, family and friends would be around you while you're doing well. But the minute you pack up playing football, a lot of my friends, even my golfing friends, it's been disgusting over the past 3 years. It's been shocking that for some reason they don't want to know me. I'm not involved with football anymore through ill health. And members of my family don't speak to me. I don't know why. Maybe I know they talk about me to people in a good way, but as in connecting with me, there's no connection whatsoever. So it's trusting people. I've learned to know who's with me and who isn't with me.
Yeah.
And most important for me now is health. Since me and Fiona got together, we've actually suffered so much. We spend more time at the hospital than anybody I know. She's got a biopsy on Tuesday. I've got a new knee on Wednesday. We don't get bills here. We just get letters from the NHS to go and have this, that. So it's a lot of trust, a lot of love, and be loyal to the people that are loyal to us.
That's fantastic, Stephen. Do you know what? I've gone all kind of shivery there just listening to that, because from a personal level, I 100% believe in that. 100%. Mm-hmm. The challenge these days, as you've already alluded to, there's still a lot of good people in this world, and if you didn't believe that, then what is the point? Yeah. But I find that that kind of old school loyalty that you're referring to, you have to dig around to find it.
It's not. My author, his family's lovely. Got 2 lovely sons. They see each other. They have a meal together. I don't see my kids. I don't bother me anymore.
Shout out for your author, Steve. His name?
Jonathan Nicholas.
Jonathan Nicholas.
Yeah, he's done a great job with the book, and it's probably just not out for Christmas. But then again, it's the publisher's, not our fault. It took us nearly a year to write it, and I've read it, and I can't wait to have it in my hand, and it'll probably mean more to me than anything that I've won in football, because it's my life and not just my football story.
Yeah, and that's this is the whole point, Steve, of this podcast. It's about your life. As I've said, people can go on the internet, so they can research your playing career, but people want to know more. People want what you call, quite rightly, that connection. They want to know about, they turned up on a Saturday night, on a Saturday afternoon, and saw you at Meadow Lane or Plymouth Argyle or Derby County or wherever you was. They never got to know Steve. No. Because I know from my years on the terraces at Forest, I used to look at, I was brought up in the late 60s, early 70s. I used to look at players, and even though in those days I used to think, what Robbo's going to be doing tonight? Johnny Winfield, what's he up? Sammy Chapman, what's he on? John Middleton, remember John Middleton?
I worked with John at Derby,
yeah.
So sad he passed away. It's horrendous, really.
Fantastic goalkeeper. Man.
He was, yeah. I learned a lot of him. Yeah. He wasn't. I had 9 years at Derby. There wasn't many goalkeepers there that I saw train as well as him.
Just sort of flipping off at a slight tangent. Always remember it was in the Trent End, and Forest were playing Southampton, and Peter Osgood was playing for centre forward for Southampton. And this cross came in from the right wing, the old East Standards it was then, and Osgood met it, bang, perfect, and it was going top corner. Yeah. And I've still etched in my memory, Middleton got a fingertip to it, and it kept it out. I'll never ever forget that save.
I had my first goalkeeping course with him and Peter Wells.
Peter Wells.
When I was 15.
Another nice guy.
Yeah. And obviously Alan Hill took the session.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back a long, long time.
So just getting back to Steve the man then, what's your views, Steve, around, society's changed. We've touched upon that a bit. And very interesting to hear an ardent professional footballer and I'm going to be controversial here, from an age when footballers were proper, and I know there's going to be some controversy over that, but they played the game very hard and very fair, and there wasn't too much rolling around on the pitch.
No.
So the game's changed dramatically. Society's changed. How do you feel about that now, having played the game? Well, first of all, the football, Steve, because you played in a culture where you just got on with it.
Yeah.
And I remember one of Cloughie's singing, unless you've got a broken leg, I'm not interested.
Exactly,
Carry on.
Well, I think that's changed. The first thing I'll pick up on is the fact that teams aren't teams anymore. Not in the division that I played in. It's more about individuals. We used to sleep together, drink together, eat together. We used to go to the lounges together. Now you get the odd one coming. You know, players aren't on 3-4 year contract at lower level. They get 1 year contracts, and they aren't around long enough to form a family atmosphere within the group of players.
Yeah.
I think De Gea is outstanding with the new technique of goalkeeping, where it's more with your feet, your hands, as in standing up. But I think in my day, you got in where it hurt, and nowadays you don't see much of that. You don't see keepers getting injured. You don't see goalkeepers dive at someone's feet. It's more, I'll stand up. If I block it, it looks great. If I miss it, you look a fool.
Yeah.
And they even coach it. I've seen videos where they coach it, stand up and twist your, turn your foot. It's like a slapping a five-side goalkeeper. Got a small goals, and you're blocking it with whatever you can to see it's short range. And that's how it's becoming in league football.
Yeah.
If it comes off, it's great. But even De Gea, when he's tried to stand up, be tall, and stick a foot out, and he don't get it, it looks so bad. I'm thinking, and you're on all that kind of penalty a week, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. How do you think, Steve, dare I say, players from your generation, and I'm generalising now, although we could be specific about your own opinion, is there, I think resentment is far too strong a word, but do you kind of look at the situation now and the way that money absolutely dominates the game?
I don't resent what they earn.
No?
I've had moments in my life where I think, you know what, I've had 4 clubs, I've had 4 Player of the Years. I'll go to Derby. They offered me a 3-year contract, and I was there. This is my 9th year. They offered me a 3-year contract. The wages were okay, and I asked for a lump sum, a small lump sum, which I know that it was half what 2 other goalkeepers had had. I turned it. They won't budge on the contract, and I signed for Walsall, bypassing Wolves. Maybe I should have signed for, I don't know, and got 3 times what I was asking for Derby. And they get to 28,000, and Walsall's 4.5. That's what I resent. That's what I'm gutted about. Should I have stayed? Yeah, I should have stayed. But some clubs have not been looked after.
Yeah.
And I've given everything. And in my day, you said, I want players with black and white blood or red and white blood, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I gave it.
Yeah.
I was first in, last out. Now look at me now. I need 2 knee replacements. I'm not feeling great. I'm full of arthritis. But I gave it. But I think somewhere down the line, I could have got a bit more out of the game than what I did do. And it's not, I'm not being bitter.
Yeah.
It's just moments where you sit and think, what was it all for, If I didn't feel like I do now, we might not be having this conversation, but there's times when I think, you know what? Well, I've had moments where I've been looked after more than I expected. But there's been times when, you know what? They could have put a bit more of a fight. And because I left Derby of my own accord, I've had no contact with that club in 33 years.
Right.
Not even an invite back. Right. Supporters Player of the Year. I mean, goalkeepers have won that at Derby 4, 5 in their lifetime. It's amazing.
I suppose the other side of that coin, Steve, playing devil's advocate, is from the average lad or lass on the terraces would say, I'd given anything to have been, to have been a professional footballer.
Yeah.
There's both sides of the coin, but this is what's great about this conversation, because it gives that insight into your thoughts and your feelings. Because I think it's so easy for people just to sit from a distance and judge, and say, well, X, Y, or Z, or cast an opinion. But actually, have you spoken to the man himself about how he feels?
I understand that conversation. But, if someone said to me, I'll pay your mortgage and I'll do this and that. I play for free. But unfortunately, I had 2 young kids, a mortgage to pay, and I would like to have got that paid off before I finished football.
Yeah.
You know, then I've been to, don't get me wrong, I spent 3 months at Chesterfield via Notts County, and I got so much looked after. I was only there 3 months on loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one invite back in 9 years. I had 9 years at Derby, and I had one phone call to say guest of honour or 2 free tickets or no connection whatsoever. And I've lost that connection with Derby now.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so after all that time. But isn't it true though, Steve, that, you know, when we look back in life, and I think football for me, and that's why I called it Mastering the Game of Life initially, now Mastering Life, of course. But football for me, and I obviously never played at your level, but it was a great reflection of life, because if you was a defensive kind of player, and I was because of my upbringing and everything that was going off in my life, I was very suspicious, I was very angry with the world. I kept out of the way. Now, my attitude was almost like a proverbial centre off. Keep away from me and you'll be all right. If you come near me, I'm going to hurt you. And I carried that mentality into life. That was about my own insecurity, my own vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think conversely in life, if you're a confident, secure, outgoing person, you can strive for goals. So in football terms, you'd be a forward, you'd be a tricky winger. I'll chance my arm on the wing. I'll try an audacious lob, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a great reflection there of how we conduct ourselves in life and how we conduct ourselves in football, to use our example.
I think what you just spoke about is lots to do with confidence, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, if you're a confident person, and I was not cocky, I was confident, and I like to think I was organised.
Yeah.
And on the pitch, and I like to help people out. Even like when I was at Derby, I think I'd be about 17, and this young lad came on trial, and I was just doing my job. But if I threw a ball to him, I'd tell him, you know, to turn or hold it or whatever. And his parents came to me after the game and said to me, "Thanks for helping my lad out." I said, "I'll just do my job. That's part of my job.
Yeah.
Is to talk to the defenders and make the job easier for them, give them more time, more space on the ball." And that's what I did throughout my career.
I think what's coming across to me, Steve, loud and clear, is as a human being, you are a very, very caring and compassionate man. That's coming through. I can feel the energy from that. Have you always been that way?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's from my family background.
And interesting as well.
I think you're born with that.
Yeah, I mean, you would get no arguments from me there. I think, you know, if in my situation, I was too busy surviving, so I put up a smoke screen that wasn't me. But I agree with you. It's in there. In fact, I'd go a stage further, Steve. It's in all of us. But I think some of us lose our way.
Yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
Some of us lose our way.
But I think that some people will, after life, will regret missing out on what they should have had.
Yeah. Because what I love about that admission, you know, from a professional athlete, which, as I say, came from an era, you know, where the game was very tough, very physical, no prisoner took, non-quarter given, non-ask. It was just deliver and win. But you've used the word love. Now, you're not going to get too many guys from that generation bandying that word around, because society expects that he is from a generation, you don't talk about it. You don't use fluffy words. Guys don't talk like that. Which leads me to another one. I'm going to throw this at you, Steve. Big boys don't cry. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, since my dad died, I've been so emotional. I'm a different person. If I see someone winning something, I get emotional.
Yeah.
If I see the winner of X Factor, I'll get emotional. If I watch the Lifetime Achievement Awards, and I think there's a bit of that, like when I won the Derby County Award, the assembly rooms in Derby, 2,500 people were there, and I was inconsolable. You know, Peter Taylor gave me the trophy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Notts County, and I got my trophy on the pitch, all mudded up. I didn't get the chance to be emotional because there's a bit in my book that I'm not going to tell you about that. There's something that went off on that day, but I'm a very emotional person. Yes, my wife, she knows that. And I think that stemmed from my dad dying. So I don't think I was as bad before that. He died in 2000. So I've had 18 wet years, haven't I? You know. Yeah, it definitely changed my way.
I'd challenge that word, Steve, if I may. When you said I wasn't as bad as that, I'd say you wasn't as good as that, because I think for any person to have the internal strength to be able to show that emotion is exactly that. It's an internal strength. Because what it's saying, particularly with the stereotype of a guy, you know, big boys don't cry. Just shut up and get on with it.
Yeah.
You know, and particularly the areas we came from in the early 60s, mining villages. I mean, you wasn't allowed.
No.
You know, it's like children should be seen and not heard. You know, you're thick here. What are you crying for? Well, there's another one. Now you've got something. That certainly was my upbringing.
Yeah,
anyway.
it was mine.
Yeah.
It's when I was a kid. If I was mischievous and my mum couldn't cope with me, she'd say, "Wait till your dad gets home." On occasion, I had the belt. Yeah. Didn't do any harm. Yeah. You know, all this rubbish on media now about you can't smack your kids and all that. Well, maybe there's not enough of it. That's my thoughts on it, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Most memorable game, Steve? Most memorable game?
We've got to say the Notts County Man City in the FA Cup. Because I got away with I had the luckiest day in my life, but I also probably made about 20 saves that I shouldn't have saved. And to put the club through to the quarter-final of the FA Cup was amazing. But then again, I played Derby Man U at the baseball ground, but we got beat 1-0. And I probably had a more quality of save game than I did against Man City at Notts. And then the other quarter-final, or the sixth round, I played for Derby at Plymouth, and down there we drew 0-0, and I had the game of my life. And probably the Man City game is more important because we went through 1-0, and the other two, the Derby Man U, we got beat in the last 5 minutes by Norman Whiteside, and I'd stopped everything. But the Plymouth game, down there 0-0, I had a blinder on a sports night. I won't go into it too much because it's in my book, but something happened down at Plymouth, and on the home game, I let a goal into my corner. He got swung in. Tommy Tyler came across me. I thought he would get in front of me to nod it in, and hit the back post and went in. And my defender, who was on the post, was in back of the net somewhere. I don't know what he was doing. I thought he was crabbing. I don't know with the nets. I'm not quite sure. You know, we got beat 1-0, and I got ridiculed by the Derby fans, and Peter Taylor dropped me after the game, which is a bit shocked by a goalkeeper, ex-goalkeeper. My manager dropped me because of one mistake. Where nowadays you can play a full season of mistakes. I've seen it at Notts and not get dropped. It's embarrassing. And then he got the sack 2 days after, and McFarlane put me back in the team. And I was in the top 3 player of the year in my last season at Derby.
So from the most memorable game then, Steve, what would you say has been your most memorable moment in life? In life,
I think playing for England.
Right.
With 2 England caps on the back there.
Yeah.
I've got my England blazer that I've kept. Because I think everything else, I spoke about it tonight with my wife, you know, winning medals is a team thing, but when you get to play for your country, it's something you've been doing for a couple of years, and you've improved that much. You know, you've got recognition for all your hard work and dedication to football. And going to Monaco for 2 weeks and Las Palmas for 2 weeks in 2 separate comps and winning my caps. There's, you know, some of the people I met in Monaco, and it was truly, yes, that is it, playing for my country. The national anthem.
Yeah.
It's when you're on a football pitch and that gets played. Talk about emotions running high. Yeah. Then you got to go and play a game. That's tough. As an 18-year-old, because I was under 18s, and that our squad had some fantastic stars in it that made top flight for a number of seasons. Clive Allen, Martin Allen, Falco, John Lukic was my sidekick. There's lots in there. Gary Shaw, Wayne Clark. It was a good team, very good team. They're good memories, they are, very good.
Yeah, they are.
And being spoilt as well. Yeah. Bishop Abbey, where you get all these gifts given you to go away with, you get paid daily to go away. Like say, you just want to play for your country. That was the best. You play for county a few times over the years, but playing for your country that's it.
Do you think the modern day footballer, Steve, shares that same level of passion, pride that players from your generation and before undoubtedly had?
I think when you play for under 18s or under 21s, it's a different purpose in life, because you want to get to the top like I did. Didn't get there quite, but I think when you're at the top anyway and you're playing for your country and you're on millions of pounds a week or thousands of pounds a week, it can't be the same. I'm not saying you're not passionate about playing for your country, but you play to get there, to earn that kind of money and live better, and So I'm hoping that that's not the case, but some of the performances in the past years, you think it's not that, but because it is short-lived football. It's when you're a young lad, you think I've got 25 years yet, and it flies by.
We could have might set this up for a future episode, Steve. A modern day football, a 3-way conversation between the new kid on the block and one of the old vets called Steve Cherry, and I'll sit in the middle and referee.
Yeah, why not, mate? Yeah.
Okay. Right, just tell us a bit about your book then, Steve. Cherry Picking, Life Between the Sticks. Tell us, do you want to give us a few insights around that?
Yeah, it starts when I was 2 years of age, when how I survived at the age of 2. It was meant to be that after that episode, I won't tell you what it is, because it made the Evening Post in Nottingham.
Right.
And I was very lucky. The family was very lucky to get out and continue with life. That's how hard it was, I think I was blessed that day, even though at the time I wouldn't have thought I was only 2, but for it to make the Evening Post, I had a full page, double spread in it about my family and myself in 1963. I made the headlines in 1963, so looking back now, it's a great start to my life in a nice way. Yeah.
The PR machine was rolling at an early age.
It was, mate, yeah. No, but I've been lucky. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I want you to imagine, Steve, just as we come close to blowing the final whistle now on this episode, you're making your final appearance in the game of life. The big referee's about to blow the whistle, and you've got 30 seconds to look back on your life and leave a message behind, a powerful message. What would that be?
I don't say I wouldn't change a thing, but maybe I'd take a step back and not be too hasty and analyse things and speak to people, rather than be a young lad who wants to get there too quick, too soon. Be more patient.
Enjoy the journey?
I've enjoyed every minute of it, yeah. I'll say I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, there's been a few hiccups along the way, but I can hand on heart say I gave my best for every manager that I played for. And some of them have let me down. Some let the club team down. But, even being a goalkeeping coach, one of the best managers I've ever played for as a coach was Keith Alexander. Right. He treated me like I was a superstar. So much time for me, so much respect for me, and that's something that I'll take to my grave. That's how I think managers should be. So
you passing a message on, Steve, to the world, whether it's your kids, my kids, the lady next door, the guy in the petrol station, whatever. If you could sum it up, what would be your legacy for your life? What would that one message be to say to the world? This is what I stood for, and this is what I've learned, and this is what
live life to the full and have no regrets. So in that, you got to think that will go back to being a bit more patient, and taking a bit more time up before you make hasty decisions, and not thinking the grass is green on the other side. Just be a bit more patient and live life to the full, but have no regrets. I think I haven't really. I've not. What's happened's happened, and like I say, I hold my hands up and say I've done my best. Yeah, I've not cut any corners. I've not cheated anybody. I've just given it me all.
Okay, the final whistle is about to go, Steve. Is there anything else you want to add at this, this literal final blow? Anything?
No, just if you're out there, and please support my 2 charities and buy the book. As I say, you've had a small piece of me today, but you'll read the book and think, as I said at Chesterfield, there's been some laughter and a lot of tears, but it's made me stronger. And like now, even though with the illnesses that we've had, we'll live day by day, but me and Fiona will love in life.
Brilliant. Steve, sincere gratitude for having the strength to share your vulnerability with us, your tears and all that kind of stuff that's, not too many people actually throw their hands up to that. So thank you for that, because
Pleasure, mate.
The world is looking for that real in people. And that's what I wanted to get out of this episode, because I know you not closely, but I knew enough about you to know that you'd got that strength to say, big boys do cry, and I've been one of them.
No doubt.
Thanks very much, Steve.
Pleasure, mate. Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure. Thank
Cheers,
you.
mate. Tom.
Thanks for listening to the Mastering the Game of Life podcast. Drop a line to paul@paullowehearts.com with any thoughts or questions you may have, and he'll be more than happy to respond. Alternatively, check out Paul's website at paullowehearts.com or any of his social media feeds under the same name. Remember, mastering life starts by embracing our hearts.